Greetings, everyone. Welcome to our Leaders in Conversation session, Shattering the Old Narrative, Co-Creating a New Story for Women in Leadership. Thank you for joining us this evening and for sharing your valuable time with us. And please do say hi to us in the chat box. Tell us where you're coming from. And it'll be interesting to see one burning issue that you would like to maybe have addressed with regards to women in leadership. And we'll go around through the session. So I'm Jeanette Head, COO of Founders Wisdom. Founders Leadership, we work with leaders and we focus specifically on scaling purposeful leadership for today and tomorrow, and looking at individual and collective leadership. Our Leaders in Conversation sessions are aimed specifically at bringing and to have conversations about leadership. Yes, and experienced so many challenges himself with diversity, inclusion, and belonging. Is a very respected to challenge ourselves and our perspectives. He's an entrepreneur, chief executive officer of Nomata Consulting, a public speaker, a coach, a board member, and a chairperson of a committee. And as I said earlier, if I continue saying too much more, we won't have time for the topic. Say hello to everyone quickly.
Evening, everyone, and just thank you for joining. I am also looking forward to this session. And thank you so much. We're happy to share our own experience, but also challenge each other and then challenge you as well. Thank you, Janet.
Great, thank you. And welcome to our speaker, Candice Hankey. Candice, also a human, a mother, a wife, also having experienced so many challenges as well, an inspirational keynote speaker on topics specifically and especially advocating for women in leadership. Candice has operated successfully as a consultant over the past 20 years, launched her own business, Candice Hankey Consulting. She's an inspirational speaker, a facilitator, and now her current mission and drive is to ignite purpose, passion, and potential for growth in people all around Africa and beyond through the work she does with Food to Grow. Welcome, Candice. A couple of words.
I'm glad that you kept it quite short. I love the fact that you introduced us as humans first, because that is exactly what we are. And it's just such a joy to be able to work in the space of human development and enablement, because that's definitely my heart. And I feel honored to be with each and every person and share. And it's a conversation. I don't see myself as a speaker today. I see myself as a conversationalist. So I'm hoping that people will bring that's great for the speaker tonight. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. So, shall we get started? We have an interesting theme, and against this theme, we're going to divide this into three core areas. So, the first area we want you to focus on and spend a little bit of time on is this concept called women in leadership. And you see, we've said shattering the old narrative and co-creating a new story. So, if we think about it, it's Women's Month. We celebrated Women's Day on the 9th of August. Just take a moment for us and reflect and pop for us a couple of notes in the chat box. What did you do on Women's Day? Just think about it. What did you do on Women's Day? And secondly, what does Women's Month actually mean to you? And remember, we're not speaking to women, we are speaking to humans this evening. So what did you do on that particular day? And what is going through your mind? What does Women's Month actually mean to you? Just pop for us in the chat box a couple of thoughts around that. And while you're dropping that in, let's talk a little bit, Candice, about women in leadership. When we talk about that, are we still beating the same old drum? You know, are our actions, our themes, our narratives, our behaviors in 2023 the same as 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and 30 years ago? Are we beating the same drum with the same tune after all this period of time? It comes to women in leadership.
Well, that is a big question, and thank you very much for that question. Usually, because I facilitate learning, and usually I redirect that question. Because it's a question that is bigger than just me. It's a question that is for all women, and from the perspective, you know, I'm sure Samkela, you will know this one well. It's the African proverb that says, "When the drum beat changes, so must the dance." Right? Or they also say, "When the music changes, so must the dance." Because if you think about it, and especially in the world that we are living in today, the drum beat has certainly changed. And when that happens, we obviously need to reconsider what is because long on this as well. I think what we're sitting with is a challenge that is not necessarily around women in leadership, but leaders in general. And can the true leaders please show up? Because the drum beats, we used to speak about this concept of VUCA, right? Live in a time of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And when that happens, we look for leaders. Regardless of who they are, what their gender is, wherever they find themselves, we look for leaders. But that was a narrative that was actually put in place about 30 years, and it was referenced by the military, because they look for something and they refer to this term of VUCA. Now what we're sitting with is the introduction of Barney. Barney. Do you know who Barney is? It's not the purple dinosaur.
Okay.
Barney now, if you think about it, is we live in a time of which is, it used to be uncertainty before, but now people have experienced the impact of their fear, and they have become anxious. The other N is, you know, of Barney is non-linearity. So before, if you think about it, it was complexity, but now nothing makes sense. Something happens on social media, and then all of a sudden, you know, people lose 23% of their business overnight. And then the I is incomprehensibility. Now, I don't think I'm the only one in the world who feels that the world has, with that in mind, it takes not only women in leadership, because that narrative has actually moved on to say, where are the leaders and how do we show up regardless of our gender? That answers the question that I'm in there.
Samkela, please, from a different perspective, Samkela, what are you seeing? What are you experiencing? What are you hearing? What are you feeling about women in leadership?
Yeah, no, thank you. And I just appreciate Candice Barney in terms of anxiety and non-linearity as well. From my side, before I start, I I just want to honor all the women in South Africa, but not the one that we're going to be seeing on TV this month, not the one that we're going to be seeing on Sunday Times. Never join this session. We'll wake up every morning to go and cut the wood so that they can make fire in the village. I want to honor Osma, Fatima, and Sumaya, who sells samosas in a taxi rank, who will never this session. They are patient. I want to honor the women who are driving truck and in the evening, having left the women, their children at home. Because sometimes when we speak of Women's Month, there's a particular image of business who resides in a village in KZN or in Limpopo who runs a creche, and the parents in that village don't have the fees to pay. And Mamuldov says, don't worry, I'm sure after 3 months, you'll be able to pay the fees. And again, that's another example of women. So sometimes I think we forget those women because there's a narrative that gets pushed. I listened to a nice discussion this morning from an Afrikaner lady. She's the regional director for Lenovo. She works in Dubai. She said something interesting. She said her 7-year-old daughter said, Mommy, why is it that Women's Month is only in August? Why can't it be Women's Month every month? Why can't it be women's? So yeah, so for me it's sad that we only do this month and we do the dance and we play. And Candice, I'm gonna go back to that whether you use the dance throughout. So for me, I see elements where, but also I see elements where certain challenges still exist. What do I mean? During apartheid, we were fighting for women to get the power and to be inside. We are now seeing the Samkelos of this world who are educated, who are in power, still who were part of being disenfranchised and having bad treatment on apartheid. When now Samkelo is in power, he himself becomes a ceiling for other women. We never imagined this, by the way. We didn't think that the Samkelos, once they get into power, after the struggle, they will also now also perpetuate what has been going on. But also we're seeing women struggling with issues, struggling with career, but also some women are mothers after. So for me, it's a bit of progress, but also a bit of steps that where we have not progressed. I feel, and I'm a man, that women face more challenges. Well, I know we get told that no, we must celebrate at Women's March and all of that. See on the ground, nothing has changed for women. In fact, for some partner, the risk of being stabbed by your partner, the risk of divorce and losing the property, the risk of your child having ADD. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. And Fatima, thank you for your comment in the chat box where you refer to the fact that female leaders do and have experienced and are still continuing to experience some barriers. We've come a long way, but there are some barriers. So some interesting things coming out is women. Firstly, Candice, you're saying, where are the leaders? Show us the leaders. And in that we're implying that sometimes we don't just say, where are the women leaders? We are saying, where are the leaders? Please put your hand up. But some women, our understanding of leadership is always to go to corporate and big areas, but that lady that is there at the taxi rank has immense influence and power in her position where she is at. So sometimes we are perspective of women needs to change, and our perspective of leadership needs to change. And when we bring the two together, women in leadership, to say, what does that mean? how do we play that out? So Candice, we put in our title leadership, you know, makes sense. When are they separate? When are they together? When is there difference? When is there sameness? When is it irrelevant that you are? When is the gender? When is the difference not relevant? And when you celebrate the difference? So Candice, maybe for you first, how do we co-create a new narrative that doesn't beat in the same way?
Yeah, and thank you for that question. I think that it's a really good one because I think sometimes, and I'm going to be very direct, I believe that's the best way to be. They say when a woman reaches 40 some kilo, and the ladies on the call can say something about this, we actually, it's like, you know, there's that line, we ain't got time for that. So we are probably more direct after 40. So I'm going to speak right to your question, because Samkelo did a beautiful job in painting the picture that it's not only leaders in organizations, but it's leaders wherever we find ourselves. And Jeanette, your question was where are the leaders? That over there is more a provocation, because we're saying that leadership is needed, but we are here and we can be the leaders. And so we don't, and I think what happens is, you know, I don't know if it's a South African thing or an African thing, that we live over here, that we look for permission to lead. Hey, Samkelo, I see you nodding over there. But it's almost like we're waiting for an invitation to the party. But why do we believe that that is an important thing? Because what is leadership? Leadership is being able to set a course, a vision, a mission, and then have people follow you, whether it is your family, whether it is you know, the community that you live in, whether it is your organization. It doesn't matter what leadership. Sometimes we get caught up in the semantics and the definition. And I think that what I was trying to convey earlier is that times have shifted and changed, and we live in a time where there is a leadership vacuum. Step in, because if we wait for someone's invitation, chances are it will never come. I thought about it a little bit earlier, you know, just in terms of this damsels in distress. You know what I mean? They, you know, there's to paint this picture at school. It's systemic, you know, the way in which the world has been created and the stories that we tell our kids, etc. You're this damsel in distress, someone's gonna come find you. And then you wait for the prince, and the prince doesn't rock up. I don't know where the prince is. So it's moved on the narrative from damsel in distress to distressed damsels. You know what I'm saying? And there's a difference in that. Because now we like, so what now? But the point is that if we wait for our permission, we don't understand that we do have the right to lead, and that we have, with that right comes a responsibility. Okay. And so I don't know if that answers the question in terms of the move on. But this shattering of a ceiling and a glass ceiling, it always was referred to in the previous narrative as something that is outside of ourselves. It's this outside, like Samkelo, you were also talking about, you know, this thing that has been created by men. But the biggest thing to shatter is between our ears. Yeah. And so once we shatter this mindset of the need to be invited to the party, that we can just rock up, and we can rock up with resources because we have knowledge, we've got experiences, we've got lived experiences, we've got all of those things, and we can offer them and we can be contributors. And so I really do think that, you know, sometimes we put too much power to something that overpowers. And then the very thing that overpowers, we expect to empower us. But There's a difference between empowering, the giving over of authority, and empowering. So it's inside of myself. And through that, I actually have the power to move and not wait for the invitation in order to lead where I find myself, whether it is at the taxi rank, whether it is, in the township, looking at motivating people to actually do something amazing with their lives. And so yeah, I think that is something that's
wonderful. I want you to hold that thought for me, because that's our next section that we're going to go in. But I just want to give Samkela an opportunity as well to share a little bit of his take on when we talk about co-creating a new narrative. And by the way, I just want to clarify as well, the picture that you saw, I'm not going to use the bank's name that Samkela used, but the picture that you saw with our zebra that looks slightly different. By the way, we've given a title to that, and that's called our zebracorn. And we have said that this new narrative we're talking about is zebracorn. And actually, while I'm asking Samkela to respond, can you please tell me and pop some in the chat box, think of the zebracorn that you have. Who's your role model person that's a zebracorn? Remember, a zebracorn is a trailblazer, is different. A zebracorn is that woman that crafted her own story despite whatever happened. And we have many beautiful examples of women who have crafted their stories in their circumstances where they are. And in our language, they are now zebracorns.
Zebracorns.
They're not more of the same. They are different, uniquely differently put together. So just a quick one for Samkela. Something else you'd like to add in terms of how do we co-craft a new, different narrative around the concept of women in leadership?
I echo what Candice said, so I'm not going to shift or move away, especially the part where she says not waiting to be invited. I do a lot of coaching both for male and female. A pattern that is coming up when I'm coaching females, again, not all females, the theme that's coming up, Candice said, there's something in between the ears, is this self-critical voice, this doubting voice that says, am I a good mother? Am I a good technician? Am I a good leader? So I get to hear this voice a lot. Hence, Candice is saying, let's not wait to be invited. So when I coach, the words I will hear, I did this and this and this. I'm not sure, Samkelo, do you think that was the right thing? And I'm thinking, you're looking for validation? You've done something so good, so exceptionally well, with the right skills, and you're paying me to validate that. I come across these women with amazing natural gifts and talent outside their education. These women who've been raised in hardship, these women who've got experience, who know how to dance the dance, and yet I hear this voice that says, I'm not so sure, should I apply for that job? Or I'm not so sure, do you think I should go and talk to him about it? And I'm saying, why this need? Why this critical voice, this need for validation? So I echo Candice, let us not wait to be invited. Part of co-creation, I admire women who know their boundaries, who can say no. Two, I admire women who know what they want, their own authentic identity, not what the world has defined as success. And part of that are women who will say, I'm taking 6 months or a year off just to go and find myself. Part of that are women who are going to be saying, hey, this role, this function is no longer me, I'm moving away. I'm sure Candice and Janet, you've seen when we do the Zoom and MS Team meetings, a mother is having a meeting and the child walks into the meeting. And we've heard the words from a mother, so sorry about that. That's very unprofessional of me. And I'm thinking, this human being you brought on earth is walking to a meeting because work has come to your house and now you are apologizing. Because remember now, in all of this hybrid working model, work now has come to my house. So why must I apologize over course and Andy Soa and walking in and saying, I'm so sorry, that's unprofessional of me. Nothing, this is part of who you are. So for me, co-creation is, this is my identity. And I like what Candice said, I'm dancing my dance. As a woman, I'm now dancing my dance.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. So just to give the trajectory of where we're going to, what we really picked up over here, Candice, you put something on the table for us and said, hang on a minute, if you're wanting to shatter, you want to co-create a new story, and if you're wanting to shatter the glass ceiling, you're saying the first thing we need to talk about is the empowering, I am, which means the internal shattering. Shatter your own self-imposed glass ceiling. And Sonkelo, you mentioned some of that, which comes with self-doubt, a lot of criticism, being very, very critical, second-guessing yourself, and a number of other things. So here, Candice, let's chat a little bit more about that. So let's talk about how do we shatter the internal glass ceiling. What is that self-imposed glass ceiling? Talk to us about the imposter syndrome elements that come out of that. Talk to us a little bit about the unrealistic term called balance in life, which makes women feel so guilty because it doesn't necessarily exist. Just talk to us more about shattering, and everyone on the call, feel yourself shattering whatever self-imposed ceilings you have placed in terms of your own perception about who you are as women, and how that defines your ability to play in the leadership space.
Okay, thank you for that question. I had to giggle when Samkelo was talking about children running in, because I'm actually sitting at my mother's place, so that my little one, who's 1.5 years old, that he doesn't run in because he's all over mommy. And this thing about, and that is interesting because today I was doing a talk, and the things that the research shows that I invited into that conversation was, what are the 5 common factors holding women back? So in that shattering, and we're talking about the stuff that's happening in our minds, what are those things? Now, it says, what are the things holding women back, right? Top 5. Could you guess what they are? I'll read it, but try and guess in the meantime. It says fear of being judged. Number 1. Lack of self-belief. Number 2. Number 3, active self-critical voices. I call mine my jabber monkey that goes off on the inside, right? Because that it influences, it's very kind of placed there, but this imposter, this imposter syndrome you speak about. So active self-critical voices. Fear of embarrassment. Interesting, eh? And number 5 is not wanting to come across as arrogant or big-headed. So we've got people saying that the top 5 holding women back, and this was something that was written in a Harvard review, Harvard Business Review, and I just found that all of these things that were said, it's not something outside of myself. It's all inside of myself. It's all here. And so when you think about this shattering, it needs to be something that we cannot believe something external is going to fix, because it's not going to happen. Systemically, things are the way that they are. It's like, for example, when somebody is born left-handed, right? I take my uncle, for example, and he was born left-handed, and it's very difficult for a left-handed person to play guitar. He did not say, woe is me, the world isn't set up for me, so I won't play guitar or an instrument. He said, let me learn how to do it in a way that I can actually do it, and he plays beautifully. Nobody would have experienced the joy of him doing that and experience his music if he had believed the narrative of his own mind telling him the world isn't set up for me. Because the thing about self-esteem and self-image, it works like this. My view of myself, it influences how I believe, what choices I have in this world. So I will view the world with a scarcity mentality if I've told myself that, right? And so the choices that I have are now, they are brought to just a few. The choices that I have in life, it has an impact on the steps that I can take, because I believe that those are the steps I'm taking. And that has an impact on what it is that I'm able to achieve in life. So it works like that in those 4 steps. What I see influences the choice about myself, influences the choices that I have, and what you're saying, very true. It influences the steps that I take, because then my emotion that I have about that, it's called emotion for a reason, because it moves me to action. And that has a direct impact on what I'm able to achieve in life. What I'm able to achieve in life then filters into my family and my ability to provide what I believe they need, but I feel like I am in a box. And the only box that I need to be able to get out of from time to time is here. And so yes, it's just an interesting thing, because the shattering that we're talking about is heart surgery. And the heart surgery requires us to sign off forms, allowing for that heart surgery to take place. And we cannot always then say, yes, these are the things I must do, but then we go back and we're wanting to carry all of it again, because we're giving things over. And that's part of it, just in terms of this concept of surrendering. Because as women, I think we carry a lot. And the one thing that I've had to learn over this weekend personally is that my surrender is going to be more important than my sacrifice. And probably it's going to be lighter. So what are the things I'm willing to actually not take back the whole time and claim and say that it's my problem and it's my cross I'm carrying on? And what is it that I'm willing to give over? I'm not willing to actually carry this narrative anymore. I am now enabling myself to believe something different, because I choose to see myself differently. And when I do that, and I'm able to embrace this new idea of who I am, then this idea of belonging, I don't need to seek belonging anywhere else, because I belong. And from there, I'm able to deliver and to change things. Now, the other thing that you asked as well is about the zebra corn.
Yeah.
You see, the thing about the zebra corn is it's not a unicorn, because it's still part of the herd. So it's still connected into the herd. But it has something that is a little bit different. And I think that the thing that the zebra corn actually understands is this thing about responsibility to belong. And I've got a couple of beatitudes that I've thought about, but we can talk about it later, because I'm hearing my voice a little bit too much. So if you're interested about this beatitudes of a zebra corn,
we're going to make space for that. We're going to definitely, please hold that one. Definitely give it to us. I just want to bring in something that Tino mentioned in the chat box to pose a question to you, Samkela. And yes, you know, there's this expectation of it. If I do this, the men are going to say I'm arrogant. If I do that, the men are going to say I'm aggressive, which almost applies sometimes that there's some rule book that we don't know about, or we seem to be always getting it wrong. There's some kind of rule book you have to shape your behavior in a particular way for you to be acceptable. Now, I don't want to steal the show here, but I would love to unpack this thing about the perception of being aggressive, because when we talk about shattering the ceiling, yes, some of us as women have tried to act like the boys, to try and fit in. We've tried to be one of the boys. So I want to chat to you a little bit about that. And that hasn't worked very well for women, I don't think. When we try to be men, you know, in a man's world, and try to lead like men, and excuse me for making that label kind of thing, but trying to lead the way other people expect us to lead, where we actually just lose our authentic who we are. So Samkela, a little bit of words from you around that, because you seeing us from that side, you know, and this thing about we getting arrogant, we getting aggressive, we trying to shove our way into places where we shouldn't, and in the process we're not being who we are.
Thank you very much. But just before I continue, we're going to do a free to grow thing that Candice knows very well. Candice mentioned a sentence, and I would like that sentence to seem a sentence around surrender and sacrifice. So Candice, if you don't mind saying that sentence again and just allowing us 5 seconds, because what we do in these sessions we rush, and then the most important stuff we miss it. So I'd like to give Candice another time just to say the sentence again, and just 5 seconds to allow it to penetrate the subconscious, because it's very rich. Over to you, Candice.
Some kilo. I should write these things down, man. Surrender and sacrifice. Sometimes when our surrender is better than our sacrifice. Because when we surrender, we don't give up. We give over. Sacrifice is about, it's about controlling still. Because I feel like I need to sacrifice, and it's giving off something of my own. Whereas surrender is, I thought about it in the car. It's about striving. My sacrifice is like striving, and striving leads to surviving. Right? But surrender is more like, when I'm surrendering, I am endeavoring, and that is something that is better, because when I'm sacrificing, I'm operating in a different part of my brain. Because I don't know if you know biology, but the triune brain, they talk about the evolution of your brain. It's like the most primal part. It's your survive, it's your fight, flight, all your F words sit there, your fight, flight, fright, and the other F words also. They all sit in the survival part of your brain. But when I'm surrendering, I actually am mindful about the fact that I don't have it all, and these things that I'm not going to understand, but I live like this. And when I give it over, it means that I've actually transcended from just surviving to actually thriving, because I know that I don't have to control. And so I think this whole thing around asking for permission is also around control. It's a big thing around control. And who holds the authority to actually give me authority? Does that make sense?
No, it does. Yeah, I asked that you do that. Sorry to both come from a free to grow model, and we always believe that important messages must not be left behind. So for me, Candice, when you use the surrender, if I could be a female today and don't tell my wife, for me to surrender means that I've stopped wanting to be perfect.
Striving.
For me to surrender means I've stopped dancing other people's dance if I'm a woman.
That is exactly it.
And then lastly, for me to surrender as a woman means that I've made peace with the perfect parts of my life and also not the so imperfect parts of my life. So when I go for an interview, I go for a meeting, I don't hide those parts of my life which don't have a makeup, a Maybelline, or a weave. I'm saying, hey, I struggled with fuel money to get to this interview. Hey, my child was up last night with colleague. Hey, at home, I don't have this and this. So to answer Janet's question, sorry, Janet, to answer your question, when we say we come across like this to men when we do this, the risk with that, we've made men our benchmark and standard.
That's it.
That's the risk, is that we've made, like for me as a Black entrepreneur, I'm always conscious that I'm dancing my dance. The big four, whether it's Deloitte, Accenture, they are not my benchmark. Sometimes without being aware, we make other people our benchmark. Hence we seek their approval, hence we seek their acknowledgement, and hence we strive so hard psychologically to fit in their world. When I was working in corporate, it became clear to me that even though I was an executive, I did not belong. Hence, I always say this sentence, I'm okay. I don't have to fight to belong when I'm not accepted.
Sure. This was one of those very perfect free to grow pause moments, wasn't it? Pause on that. We have made men our benchmark. Now, if you want to talk about shattering the glass ceiling internally, then I think that sort of sums up what we're looking at. What we're looking at here is we're saying, women, let us all just stop, reflect, and pause and think about what are those self-imposed ceilings that we've placed based on our own perspectives and perceptions about what is the benchmark and what it looks like. Thinking about how I should behave based on what the external surrounding is commanding or dictating me to do. And in that process, I'm losing a little bit, Candice, I'm losing a little bit of who I am and what is my identity. And I mean, surely you want to be proudly woman, you know, and then you want to bring to leadership exactly who you are. And that's where we're saying maybe women leadership, sometimes it's good to put them together and sometimes we just need to take it out. Do you want to be known as a woman in leadership? Or do you want to be known as a leader that has impact and influence and really can change the lives of many people in the way that you touch them, irrespective of, despite?
Yeah, thank you.
Moment for reflection. So then, Samkela, I want to go back to you again, because now the other shattering we're going to talk about. Remember, we said first we're talking about women in business, in leadership, and we're trying to understand what that means generally. We've now spoken a bit about how do we shatter within, and that needs to, hopefully, we make that very empowering. I see Tina also said, sure, we've made men our benchmark. That is like, wow, what a shattering to actually just look from different perspectives. And then the other shattering we need to talk about is, yes, we have surroundings. I think Fatima mentioned, and you know, a couple of elements around that. And that there is the reality of our surroundings. There is the reality of the systemic issue around equality and all of those good things and how they do impact. But the one thing we're seeing, as Candice, you're saying, from the empowering point of view, everything that's happening outside of you must not that directly influence you in everything that you're doing, because then it affects your choices and your decision making. You possibly make yourself smaller based on that. So let's talk a little bit about how do we shatter the perceived glass ceiling regarding the external, the systemic things that are around us that might limit or prohibit us. I was listening to a Women in Leadership conference 2 days ago, and I just want to mention this one as intro. And one of the ladies said, you know, I got through the system, through the tokens and the numbers and the whatever. Wow, I landed up in the boardroom. I got there. And when I got into the boardroom, they all just totally and utterly ignored me. They spoke as if I didn't exist. She said I had a choice. I could become aggressive, stay in my state. I could log a grievance. I could do all kinds of things to do that. She said, I kept quiet. And I listened and I observed and I learned and I learned and I learned. And that's why today I am probably one of the best, I won't say what, in South Africa, in Africa as such. I didn't let my emotional attachment to that it's not right now and I want to make issue of it. I used the opportunity and I learned so much that I am at the forefront of everything right now. So I invested my energy differently. So Samkela, this systemic context of the environment within which I now need to function, share a little bit more with us about your formula: diversity, equity, inclusivity, belonging equals alignment, with specific relevance to women in leadership.
I'm glad that you've mentioned systematic, because sometimes when we speak on gender equity or the female agenda, and I don't always like to speak publicly because I'm not always the best speaker. I tend to raise the uncomfortable issues. In Afrikaans, as I'll say, so I don't like, I prefer one-on-ones. So sometimes when we speak on women issues, people will speak to us about building a creche closer to work so that our children can have a creche closer to school. And sorry for the use of the terms I'm going to be using now. People will use words to us as females and they will say, how about having menstrual leave as one of the policies in our organization? Or how about having rooms for express breastfeeding? But guess what? all those things are the basics. The fact that we're actually discussing those things, it actually worries me. Can we please elevate the discussion and say, can we actually look at the salary, at the pay grade in this organization? If Samkelo is doing the same role as Candice, is Candice getting paid lesser? 2, when roles are advertised in this position and words are used that both Samkelo can apply, what are the chances of Candice getting the job or Samkelo getting the job? And what about LTI? So I like you. So we look at processes, we look at systems. Are those processes and systems aligned and designed for women to succeed? Beyond breastfeeding, beyond having a creche closer to work. I mean, I'm not undermining those things, but I'm saying, can you actually deal with the elephant in the room that actually a card? Actually, for me to study further, I must go and take a loan from African Bank, whereas Kos and Samkelo were given a loan by the organization to do their MBA. Can we talk about that? Then we talk about systematic. Coming to diversity, for us at Nomatu, diversity is more than saying there are 40% Black women in the board. I have a problem with that. And sometimes you even find women using words like, I was one of the first Black women. I'm saying, you should be worried, girl. You should be worried that you were one of the first. Inclusion to me is the hardest one. It's easy to do diversity. Inclusion is designing processes and systems, whether that's talent management, whether that's action planning around the success of women. And the last one, belonging. Can we really belong in organizations? I'll give a good example. One of our clients we work with, they are in Africa. They've got different kinds of employees. They've even got interns. And the intern only works for a year. If your contract ends after a year, how can you feel that you belong in an organization? If you are an intern and you are female, and you know that your contract is going to end within a year, how can you feel you belong? You don't belong because you won't have a job after a year in the organization. So for me, when they speak of belonging, they'll use words like, we want to feel like we belong. To me, belonging is more than a feeling. It has metrics, it has actions as well. Thank you.
And if we add to that, I just want to add another question onto that, because this term belonging, who belongs and how? Do you make me feel that I belong, or do I step out in my shoes and I belong? It's very much like the discussion around trust. You know, do I trust you first, and then do you trust me? And how do we demonstrate that we actually trust each other? So how does belonging really? Because for me to belong, does it mean I have to be like you? Must I be the same as you? Or for me to belong, does everyone, I need to accept myself for who I am and not need to change my behaviors to accommodate you? And does that mean that you accept me unconditionally for who I am and my strengths and my everything is the perfect and the imperfections that I bring? And out of that together, we extract what's best for this business or this environment that we're functioning in, and we celebrate our sameness and we celebrate our unique differences. So what is it? Just give us a little bit more flavor there, Samkelo. What is true belonging? How does it really come into fruition without me having to act a particular way so that I can belong, please? You know, ask permission, please belong.
I'm keen to go back to my sister Candice, because right at the beginning she mentioned something around belonging, and I'd like her to make some few points on this, especially she said she's got belonging statements, and also because we both come from Free to Grow. Once you hear yourself talking a lot, you become mindful. So over to you, Candice, and then I will close it.
I like that hospital pause thing, Samkelo. But you know what? I thank you for that. Because I'm itching. I am actually itching here. You say Muni Krappa did me jikni, but I am itching here because it really is something that I've been digesting and that I've asked a few other ladies about as well just recently across this month. And I think that people are getting is a beautiful, and I don't know if we can say it on this platform, but it's a South African word, a little bit hurtful. You can't translate that.
No,
but
there's no.
of this idea, and you said it so well. It's like you're coming and you're saying, please bus, like, can I please belong? You know what I'm saying? And we actually don't, there ain't no time for that. Because coming back to this zebra corn, right? I think that the beatitudes that we're talking about over here, that if you think about a bumblebee, a bumblebee does not belong in the sky. According to aerodynamic law, it belongs
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
ground
yes.
because of the way in which aerodynamic law says that it needs to be, it's built so that the wingspan, it cannot carry its body. It's actually, it goes against the law of nature. But the bumblebee doesn't consider that. The bumble says, hey, but I got flowers that I need to go and pollinate and go and draw some pollen from. So it's on a mission. And so the mission transcends this need to belong somewhere. And so I think that as a woman walking a journey, and I'm not speaking for all women, because I feel that women have voices to speak for themselves. But
Yes.
I do believe, kind of having walked this journey of life and work and all of those kinds of things, we need to, first of all, number one, be found. We need to be found. And what do we mean by that is, the first thing is to, how am I to be found in myself? Because if I am found in myself, then I belong already. And I've given myself permission to just fly. The second thing over there is be interested in other people more than be interesting. Because when I do that, it actually takes the spotlight off me having to embarrass myself and all of that. And I lean in to find out about others. And through that spirit of generosity, I find opportunities to actually find things that I have that can matter if it joins up with someone else as well. Because together we can co-create vision of what can be, of what's possible. The third thing over there is be positive, right? Because we're living in a world that is incomprehensible. So it's easy to be negative, but when you look and you adjust your glasses, you see opportunity, and you fly into it. And then the fourth thing over there is be purposeful. Be purposefully on a mission. Because when you lose yourself in this life, you'll find yourself in service. I'll say that one more time. I found this many times. If I feel lost, I find something to go and do. Because guess what? I will find myself in the mission, regardless of what it is. And the other thing is be a good storyteller. Because ladies can tell good stories, eh? Can we tell good stories, ladies? And so when we tell the stories, let it matter, because helps us be that teacher on the go, the coach on the go, the mentor on the go. We take people along with us. And then the other thing is about being honoring and appreciative, because when we appreciate things, it allows people to feel the impact of our leadership. And be protective and kind, because the world needs kind people. And be a contributor. That's the last one, number 8. Be a contributor and be an investor. Because
Excellent.
if I'm an investor, it means that I've got ownership that I can share, whether it be my time, my talent, or my money. So I think that that
Excellent.
is something that, when women embrace this thing of that zebra corn, I understand that I don't have to worry so much about, do I belong? You do. Accept it.
Yeah.
You belong. And
Yeah.
now, what are my responsibilities in my belonging?
Excellent. Thank you. I'm conscious of time, so now I'm going to flip the slide over and start asking my sister Janet and also you, Candice, some certain questions. Candice, you mentioned that when you become 40 as a woman, certain things you don't care about. So we want to ask you the age, because both of you look as 16 to me. Tell me, if you had to look to your younger self, what advice, Janet, starting with you, and then Candice, what advice would you give to your younger self if you look back now?
I would say, get to know who you are and be proud of who you are right from a young age. Sit well in who you are. Keep your dream alive. That dream you have at that young age, keep it alive. And to the younger self, when life gets tough, because it will, keep a balanced perspective. Tap into wisdom, your own and those in your surroundings, and just keep a balanced perspective as you navigate through the complexities of life.
Something around balance. Candice, what would you say to a younger Candice?
Ooh, what would I say to a younger Candice? I think 3 things. Don't take yourself so seriously. Okay? Because then you don't want to live this according to perfection. Something I learned from my daughter, which I'll share with my younger self, is practice makes progress, not practice makes perfect. And have a growth mindset and be courageous. So that's what I learned from my daughter, Jenna. And the third thing is, don't undersell and undervalue yourself. Because many the time I've done that, and I've reaped some of the of not the benefits, but the downside of that. So don't undervalue yourself.
Excellent. No, thank you very much. Yeah. And then the second question I have, now that you've matured, when you grew up, you were not wearing glasses and spectacles, but now you mature, you see the world better. What would you do differently with all the learning and experience that you have now? The first one was on a younger self, but if you reflect now, what would you do differently? Starting with you, Jeanette, and then I'm going to come over to Candice.
Oh, yes. 1, not trying to become one of the boys. Yeah, I learned that lesson the hard way in the boardroom. Yeah, don't try to become one of the boys. Don't lose your identity to conform what's expected to get permission to play in the arena. Just don't lose yourself in the process. Take accountability and responsibility. You do have a role to play. It's not always their fault. It's not always them or the system or the surroundings. Take ownership and accountability for your role that you might also play in what's happening. So, and then lastly, of course, just learn to be your 100% authentically who you are. Courageous, brave, and stand up for who you are. Don't try to play to the script of other people. Have that confidence in your ability to be who you actually are. Yeah.
Love the authenticity. This word authentic keeps on coming up. I love it. Over to you, Candice. Thank you, Janet. Over to you, Candice.
Thank you very much. I think, Janet, we've got a lot of stuff aligned there. And I think starting with authenticity, there were many times when I did things, or there were times I would even like adjust my accent to suit the crowd. And if I'm going to be honest, that's what I've done. And I realized to just embrace who I am. And when you do that, you actually operate in your own, you operate in your flow. So the first thing is about embracing that authenticity. That's what I learned. And then the second thing over there is just keep the main thing, and don't disregard the values that your life has been built on, because those things are the things that will sustain you in your integrity. So I think that those are the 2 big things that I've learned.
Excellent. No, I'm conscious of time. Fatima has to drop out. Inshallah, Fatima. Inshallah. Thank you for being honest and vulnerable, Candice. And the last one, just one sentence. Only one. What would you say to a young girl who would watch this video or listen to this podcast, who's either in China or he's in Dubai or is in Mexico? Just one sentence. What would you say to her?
Don't see glass ceilings. Don't let other people impose them, and don't create your own glass ceilings.
Excellent. Candice.
Shine or fly regardless.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Don't let other people set glass ceilings for you. Shine or fly regardless. Over to you, Janet. You've been a great host. For you to close the session. Yeah.
Yes. Quickly, a last word from you, Samkela. Just a one word from you as well, a one-liner.
As a woman, you are not a clinical therapy case. There is nothing wrong with you. You are not a clinical therapy case. There's nothing wrong with you.
Thank you. This is brilliant. Thank you so much. Really appreciate both of you being there. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on the session. Please do have a look at Samkela and Candice's LinkedIn profiles and their websites. Connect with them directly if you'd like to help them with any coaching, if you need any support with coaching or anything. And then just to let you know that we're running our next session on the 20th of September. The topic we're going to be doing is the loneliness of leadership. And so our core topic is finding your tribe. So please do join us on the 20th of September. We will send that information through to you. Links are in the chat box. Thank you so much for spending time with us. We will also release the recording at the end of the session. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.